Now, a few days ago, a relative asked my grade 2 son a question which I'm sure you recall if you went to school when I did. Yes, that question, ulikuwa namba ngapi? A genuine attempt to understand just how well or otherwise the young man had performed in school in the previous term. Now, that question brought back old memories from my childhood, but more consequentially, it brought back into sharp focus some questions that I have been asking myself regarding the new curriculum in our schools known as CBC. You see, in times past, when ranking was the currency of the education system, ulikuwa namba ngapi would have been an easy question to answer, especially if you had performed well. But not now. I saw this blank look on my son's face when the question came, but then it occurred to me that he actually could not have had an answer, because in the era of CBC, that question simply does not arise. There is no longer any ranking in school, you see. In fact, he probably had no idea that there was a time in this country when that question has such a straightforward answer. But the whole episode got me wondering just how well the ordinary person walking on any village path or city street actually understands this new curriculum. But I made peace with the fact that perhaps they will get it with time. After all, it's still called a new curriculum. Never mind the fact that CBC classes are now the majority in any primary school. But what struck me the most, and which is the subject of my angle tonight, is whether we are truly prepared as a country for the sea change that this system is about to usher in. Of course, at the basic level is the question of whether everybody truly understands the role they're supposed to play to make the new system work. Do the parents, for instance, understand how their children will be assessed? Do they understand how the government or the Kenya National Examinations Council, for that matter, will sort out the different abilities that their children have? Do they, for example, know how the transition to secondary school and tertiary institutions will actually take place? Are the teachers truly prepared for the additional role they have in guiding and assessing the learners? But the real question about our preparedness goes beyond mere awareness and understanding. You see, in February this year, President Kenyatta received a report from the task force that had been put together to think through this new system, and that report had specific timelines within which certain things were to be done. Of particular concern was the issue of expansion of existing infrastructure in schools, particularly to deal with the double intake into secondary school in 2023. And this is why. According to the new curriculum, learners are supposed to transition from primary school to secondary school after grade 6. The first cohort of CBC is currently in grade 5, and by the end of next year, they will be done with grade 6, and will therefore, in 2023, need to proceed to grade 7, which will now be part of what is called junior secondary school. On the other hand, the current Standard 7 learners will sit for their KCPE exams also at the end of next year, and so will also need to join Form 1 in the same 2023. And here's the problem. You see, according to the CBC task force, there will be an estimated 1.2 million learners joining secondary school from the CBC route alone, and another 1.3 million from the 844 system. This means a total of almost 2.6 million learners pouring into secondary school all at the same time. Yet, that same report says our secondary schools currently can only accommodate some, with a degree of stretch, of course, about 1 million learners per year. So compare 2.6 and 1 million. This means if nothing is done, there will be a shortfall of nearly 1.5 million spaces in our secondary schools in 2023. Which is why, according to the CBC report, by January this year, the country should have started an aggressive construction of new classrooms and other facilities. But is there any sign out there that we are truly preparing for this transition explosion? Is there any evidence out there that new buildings are popping up in every secondary school in this country? I have doubts, but I pray I'm wrong. Because as the Swahili people say, safari ya kesho hupangwa leo. lest we forget. That is my angle tonight.